All right. Welcome to the Restaurants Grow podcast, where you get tips, tricks, and tactics on how to grow your restaurant business. Today on the show, we have Justin Ulrich, VP of Marketing at Evocalize. Justin has worked in software, POS, restaurant, real estate, franchise, home services, telecom, and more. I'm sure you had a teenage job that you didn't tell me about. We're not going to get into today. He is a channel marketer, a strategist, a master of demand gen, best practices. He is also the host of one of my favorite restaurant industry podcasts, the Local Marketing Lab podcast. I'm super excited to have Justin on the show. He's always the guy at trade shows with a smile on his face, connecting good people and providing interesting insights on restaurant marketing. Fun fact, his parents and siblings share something in common with my Aunt Judy's family. They all have J names: John, Jewel, Joseph, Jared, Justin, and Jodo. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That's crazy. Yeah, my mom's nickname is Judy as well. Must come with the name, I guess.
Yes, I have an Aunt Judy, and then her kids are Jeff, Jan, Jay, Jill, and Jan. Uncle Dan did not make the cut though. So anyway, all right, Justin, from a marketing perspective, where do you think the biggest area of growth is for a restaurant brand?
Oh man, there's tons of areas of growth. I think probably one of the most important is around data. Just ensuring that you have consistent data that you're pulling from all sorts of different sources. You're not just pulling in data for data's sake, but you actually have like some targeted initiatives that you want to leverage data to help solve for, but then leveraging that data to actually make decisions is where I think you're gonna get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of investing in anything marketing.
Heard. Okay, I am the how-to guy, and this is a tactic-based show, so that's a great
Yeah, yeah.
strategy. Give us an example, please.
Yeah, so if you have data around those who are coming into your restaurant, those who are actually placing orders, if you're able to capture data around demographics or something that you can leverage to help bucket them into different segments, because you'll be able to serve different messaging up to different segments that's going to resonate especially well with those individual segments. An example specifically, if you are a smoothie brand and you have a younger clientele that you're catering to, maybe you want to segment those high school kids, and so that you can communicate to them in a way that they want to be communicated to on a channel that's going to resonate, like TikTok, as opposed to if you have a segment of older clientele that you may want to send more ads or messaging to on Facebook.
So idea being, I look at my database, I realize I have a bunch of Gen Zers, and you're saying that I should then go create an ad on a channel where they are, like TikTok.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. If the segment that you're marketing to uh, leverages any specific channels at all, like you want to push the messaging to those segments on the channels where
Cool.
they are. It's like we're live. I don't know. Can you hear me, Rad? Did I lose you?
Hi,
All
what just
right.
happened?
I don't know. It still said it was running live on my end, so I don't know who got cut off. But if it was you that got cut off, the audience just saw a bunch of me staring there saying, "Hey, Rev."
We're definitely live on LinkedIn and YouTube. All right, hey, what's up, everybody? All right, you're talking about segments. Go back into what you were saying. Just pick it right back up.
Yeah, basically, if you have each specific segment is going to be more comfortable using or leveraging different channels, or be used to using different channels. So if you could push messaging that you know is going to resonate to them on those channels, you're going to be better off with your marketing efforts. The other piece is if you have, let's say you're able to segment your audience by like families, then you may be better served to serve up a different offer, maybe around a kids meal or something like that to those folks, as opposed to serving them consistently serving them like happy hour messaging or something like that if they only bring their kids in from time to time. So segment your audience, leverage the data to help drive your actual decisions and how you market.
I'm going to challenge you.
Hmm.
I don't exactly subscribe to what you just said, and here's why. I help both enterprise level brands. I have a single unit, so I'm an independent as well, and I find that for the smaller independents, growing multi-unit SMB brands, that kind of work doesn't pay off, and that it's just easier to send an email to everybody, right? And I look at it this way, and feel free to challenge me or tell me
Hmm.
I'm wrong or tell me I'm right, but like just because I'm sending an email to somebody who doesn't have kids, I still think it's relevant to tell them that I have kids' meals because there's a chance where they might be with a kid and then think of us. The same thing, like my favorite example that I like to poo poo on is when somebody says, "Oh, you should never send a vegetarian an email about a steak." Like BS. Vegetarians have friends who eat
They have
steak
friends. Yeah.
and vice versa. So hit me with your thoughts on that.
I would say it's not something that you can't or shouldn't do. What I'm saying is that you're best served. The more dialed you can get in with your data, the more dialed you can get in on your segment, the more or the more consistently that the message that you send with them to them will resonate. So yes, you can still get value from shotgun approach, like sending all message to everyone. Some of it's going to land, but if you really want to get dialed and kind of snipe out your segments with specific messaging, that's how you do it. Because otherwise, I mean, you could potentially fatigue your audience if you're constantly sending them messaging that doesn't necessarily resonate with them. That's the risk.
Amen. So just more pictures of steak.
Yeah, more pictures of steak.
Maybe I'm thinking about me as an audience. Here's my new favorite segment. This came to me at Fast Casual. You'll love this. I wish you would have been there.
Oh yeah.
So there's all this conversation about what to do with third party. Makes sense. There's a lot of revenue happening over there. There's lots of headaches and whatever. Somebody said to me that maybe it's just worth it to leave people who want to use third party and third party. And my immediate reaction was like, bah, no, order from me directly. But then like, what if that's what the customer wants? Like, what do we
If
do?
that's where they are. Yeah.
Right. And so, but here's where I took that. I went into my database at Handcraft Burgers and Brew and I said, show me the LTV of guests who have only ever used third party. They've never ordered from me directly ever. And then show me the LTV of the opposite, people who've literally never used third party. They've only used first party. Guess what I found out?
Is it better LTV from those who use first party?
I had higher LTV from guests who use third party than I did from first party. I was like, oh, that is fascinating. So
Yeah.
here's what I took from that. Like, okay, I'm not saying it's not worth trying to convert people from third party to first party. It definitely is because data also
Yeah.
shows that when you get a conversion, you get higher LTV.
Right.
But if you really just want to stay there, like, and if conversion tactics aren't working, then I should just optimize your lifeline or on third party. And so like it made me
Hmm.
feel a little happier about third party, but it was an interesting deep dive. So that was a point to me where it was like, oh, that's really interesting data that I can use. You know what I mean?
100%. From a marketing standpoint, like building an audience, it takes time, it takes money, it takes effort. It's typically cheaper to go after audiences that already exist and try to tap into them. And you could apply that to many different things. For example, we do a podcast. If I want to try to start marketing my podcast to folks who've never heard of me from the get-go, it's really hard. So what do? I bring on guests who have audiences that I can tap into and leverage them to get introduced to those audiences, right? And grow mine much faster than I typically would on my own. It's the same thing. If you have your guests are visiting like third-party sites, that's where they are. So it's like you can ignore it and try to just drive them to do your own think purchases on your own first party sites or whatever, or you can just go with it and bring folks in. Eventually you'll be able to capture their information, turn them, and then start marketing to them directly. And you're building your audience that way, I think, faster than if you just did everything fully trying to get contacts on your own.
What's
I don't know.
what's your favorite segment that you've heard a restaurant sort of target lately?
I think Dave's Hot Chicken does a really good job like knowing their audience and going after them where they are. The content that's being produced, like organic content, it's all user generated stuff. They're able to then take that, leverage it, and create ads out of it because they know the algorithms, they like it because it's their videos are going viral of people tasting their food. And to be able to take that and then create ads out of it and put some money behind it and drive even more exposure, like they're doing it really, really well. And they understand they have a younger audience. They're doing a lot of stuff on TikTok, and people are creating the user generated content across TikTok. So they're going to where their audience is and they're engaging with them more and putting money behind it more where their audience is.
Yeah, I think from a social perspective, I get asked, you probably do by restaurants all day, what should I be doing on social media? I don't know. There's 1,000 answers, but I think
And you do all of them.
Yeah, I try. And I think what Dave's Hot Chicken did was really interesting. They went and looked at, hey, people who are already creating their own content about our brand, what does it look like? And then they started making content that looked like UGC, right, for their own channels. But then they also started boosting content. So essentially they were like, hey, this is how people see us. This is how our guests talk about us. Let's go do the same thing. That's actually a really easy thing to do. I'm surprised more people don't do it.
Yeah, the concept of boosting, it's like if you try to boost something from zero, it's like you're not really going to get much traction. But the content that they are already generating organically, we talked about, it's already going gangbusters. So you put some money behind it, and it's like rolling. It's like pushing a car. When you start pushing it on your own, it's super tough. But once it starts getting rolling, it takes a lot less energy to get that thing moving faster and faster and to keep going.
So what you're saying is me trying to get people to point at their food is a much dumber idea than just seeing what they're already doing and do that instead.
I will tell you, if you had a brand that had you pointing at the food and that content took off, put some freaking money behind it. More Rev.
Yeah. Right before we started this broadcast, Julie and our team was like, "Okay, Rev, go point at something." So that's for Julie right there, pointing at you. There you go. God bless. Justin, you guys do a lot of work in digital ads, and I want to explore that in a second. What kind of digital ads should any restaurant brand be running? Like, just what are the evergreen style ads restaurants should be running right now?
Typically, like when we help folks create like ad templates or blueprints, as we call them, it's a few of the same things. It's like you want to drive online orders, you want to drive in-store traffic. You might want to run ads around hiring because a lot of times we know there's a lot of turnover in the space. New store openings or like LTOs or like one-off promos. That's the other one where we see a lot of attraction there. Anything else is kind of more one-off, but those are kind of the really core initiatives that we push.
What kind of ad drives people in store? Like which platform? What's the goal? What's the strategy behind it? The tactics? Break it on down.
If you look at like Facebook, Instagram, historically those ads are typically cheaper. They're being served up. If you think about like in marketing speak, like the customer journey, it's like where is someone at in their journey? If I'm on Facebook and I'm scrolling, what am I doing? I'm looking at content and I'm consuming content. And it's very disruptive. You know, you get an ad, sometimes it works, but you get the ad and it's like, oh yeah, I wasn't really thinking about that, but yeah, I might want to get a burger now or whatever. But if you think of like Google, if you're running ads on Google search, like that is where it's typically a little bit more expensive than you might have like Facebook or Instagram, but it's a higher quality lead, higher intent lead as we call it, because those folks are, if you think about their journey, typically they're looking for best burger near me. So if I wanted to serve up a handcraft ad, like that's how you do it. It's like, what are the ads you can make to help, call out the keywords of things that you think are going to be searched on to get your ad to show up. And that's like inserted directly into their journey. So if I'm hungry, I'm looking for a burger near me now, I see the ad, I click on it, I'm like, oh, this place is pretty close. It's got some good star ratings. It has a high volume of ratings. It seems like the price is right because it only has a couple dollar signs or whatever. And it's like, I'm going to go check this one out. I click directions and get directions and go from there. And it's a relatively easy way to put a model around attribution too, to see like if they click this ad, that they're going to go into your location. I think those are going to be ones that drive in-store traffic.
I almost hate to tell people to use Google search ads because I know they work really, really well. My fear is that then they're going to start costing me more because everybody's using them. But they work really, really well, right?
Yeah, because you're bidding on the same words. Yeah, especially where you're at, man. If you're in a heavy metro area, like that's where a lot of the platforms, if you think of these ad platforms, they're designed to make the platform money, right? Google wants to make money. They're going to make a percent of each dollar spent on their platform. So typically, if people run national ad campaigns, they're going to default to spending more of those dollars in the heavy metro areas, New York, Chicago, LA, stuff like that, because the system will be able to spend it a lot more quickly and drive that revenue to the platform company much faster. So it's probably going to be more expensive, especially if you start pushing the word about how well they work around your location. Sucks for Rev.
Yeah, I want to be clear to everybody who's listening. If you're a restaurant operator and think about running Google search ads, they really, really work. Unless it's in Bryant Park, don't run them there.
Yeah. And if you're pushing burgers,
just not there. Anywhere else is
choice.
fine.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you think is like a good, like sort of healthy everyday, like what's a good daily budget for a Google search ad for a restaurant? $5, $10, $50? Like what's healthy for every day?
It honestly, I don't know that I could give a good answer because it varies so much based on where you are and also your price point. Like if you think of your check value, um, you might probably, I don't know, 50 bucks a day, 100 bucks a day. At least want to, if anything, if you spend what you think might be a little too much, you can accelerate your learnings and see what works and what doesn't and kind of go from there and kind of work your way into a good dollar amount because you'll be able to tell a difference, especially if you're tracking the data like I talked about earlier, and being able to see what is actually working and attribute traffic to your ads. Then you'll know, hey, am I spending the right amount? Is it too expensive? Is it not? Am I not pushing enough? You'll be able to answer those questions. I know
All right,
it's really high level in general, but
amen. I have a question about traffic ads on Meta specifically. I have feelings, but I'd like yours, and then I'll share mine. Are traffic ads worth running on Meta? And if so, for like what initiative?
oh, so I haven't run enough personally to know how effective
Okay.
they are to a specific location like you have with your business. But traffic ads, I would say that they're going to be more effective on Google, just because how we talked about earlier, you're catching them in a higher intent moment, as opposed to surprising them and disrupting something that they're basically doom scrolling or whatever it might be. I personally would spend more dollars on Google ads to drive traffic. Brand awareness, I might spend more on Facebook, Instagram, because with those ones, it's cheaper, right? But I'm able to keep my brand top of mind with folks, and that would be more of what I would kind of focus on there.
All right, Justin, I want you to make a fist. Show it to me. Let's fist bump. I totally agree.
Boom. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing.
I have restaurants that be like, hey, let's go run a traffic ad on Meta. And I'm like, why? And they're like, to drive online orders. And I was like, I get what you're doing, but like, I don't think like it's 11 o'clock. I'm laying in bed. I'm in the doom scroll on Instagram because I'm really just trying to get my brain to shut down. And I'm just happy to have images fly across the screen. If I see an ad for your burrito shop, the chances of me be like, you know what? I did want a burrito. Thank you, advertisement, and place an order. Like, that's just not real. You know what I mean? But for sure, like, again, I'm in the doom scroll and I'm looking through stuff and I'm like, oh, there's like a burrito joint in my town. No, that looks good. That makes sense. So yeah, I agree. Oh, Meta is great for letting people know your restaurant or location exists. And Google is great for like, oh, did you just ask Google where to find wings? Over here, like right here, right here. There, I pointed again.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, and then I want you to talk about Evocalize a little. One of the restaurants you're working with calls you and says, hey, we got a brand that like they're not hitting their sales this month. Or sorry, we got a location that's not hitting their sales this month. We got a store in whatever town, blah, blah, and like we're struggling. We want to run some ads. Like, what's the prescription you give there? Like, what would you say? Hey, you guys should do this.
Um, so I actually have a really good example of this. Julie Wade, so good friend of ours.
I
For
have
those who are
not
listening
texted. I have not texted with Julie in at least
today,
22 minutes.
I will say, so those who are listening, so Rev and I know each other really well just from events and just interactions like over the past, couple of years. But Julie's one that hangs out quite often with the same group, and she is fantastic. She's a solid marketer. She knows what she's doing. She leverages the data. So to answer this question, we work with Tazikis is actually one of our clients. We can activate local ads around each specific location based on any data at all. So with Julie, what we have set up is they look at weekly comps. Year over year, they're looking at sales last week to see, hey, are we where we'd expect to be based on last year across all their locations? Any of the locations that are below the mark of where the expected range for sales is, we actually automatically launch ads around each of those locations with very specific radius that we have for each location. We launch them all instantly at scale, and they see a 30% increase in sales at every one of those locations on average with those ads on. Then once the sales get back into the range, we can turn off the ads so you're no longer spending if you don't need to. So that's one example of how we would help prescribe leveraging data for ads.
Don't move on to a second example. I have questions.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna give any more examples.
By the way, I just texted Julie and said we're talking about you live on LinkedIn right now. Okay, so all right, so she has a store, or they have a store. Comp sales are down. They start running ads. Are they running awareness ads? Are they running traffic ads? Are they running Google ads? Are they running what kind of ads are they running there, or what ads would you prescribe?
It's actually with our everything that we do is through what we call blueprints. So they're these kind of programmatic templates that have like all the branded components baked in, as well as all the keywords, audiences, all that stuff behind the scenes, right? So those blueprints are also multi-channel. So when those ads activate, they activate across Google and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok around each of those locations. So that's the answer to your question. It's not 50-50. There's like a percent spend. So you might spend like 70% on Google, 20% on Facebook, 10% on Instagram, whatever it might be, right? We could decide what percentage you want to spend, but that's how we do it. It's all multi-channel.
Okay, so again, I'm just walking through the framework here. Sales are down. We're going to ignite some ads. So sales are down, spend. Everybody listen up. We just said sales are down. That's the time to spend,
You
right?
have to
Okay,
spend.
sales are down. Let me say it again. Sales are down. It's time to spend. Okay. And then you basically have sort of a prescription based on the market, the need, whatever it might be. Some ads on Google, it might be some ads on Meta. It might be a mix there. Okay.
Hmm.
We'll get into the mechanics of that in a second. Let me ask you this question. If spend money, make money, why not spend money every day? Like, why not just turn those ads on 24/7? Why wait till you're down?
I mean, I think there are budget constraints with a lot of orgs where they can't just constantly spend money. But it would be like in a perfect world where you had unlimited budget, or you didn't have to worry about constraints. Yeah, I would spend a lot more often to drive more traffic. The other thing is, if you think like to counter that point, let's say I'm like a Domino's, right? Would Domino's want to push ads out at 6 p.m. when they already have a rush and can barely handle the business? No, we would tell Domino's or someone like them, you might want to push ads around, 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. when they're relatively slow to pick up the business then, and then turn off the ads when they're already driving a ton of business because they're not going to be able to handle it. They're going to create a crummy customer experience potentially, like, and then that's going to translate into possibly a bad review, which may have a negative impact, on your overall marketing.
Do you find immediacy to ads? Like if I handcraft burgers and brew, we're kind of busy like 11 a.m. to 2 and then like 4 to 6. Do you find that if I ran ads 2 to 4 or 2 to 4, and again, I know I have to test, and I juice them 2 to 4 p.m., I'm going to see immediate impact?
You'll see impact. Yeah, you'll see impact. We do it with. I don't have the numbers unfortunately, but that's something that we do with Smoothie King. as we help drive traffic when they're typically slow, and we could turn on and off the ads. Like you could actually, if you plug your system, if you hook up your system correctly, you feed the data in correctly, we can turn them on and off, relatively quickly. It's near instantaneous. There's an approval period for the ads, like when you want to turn them on, it may be like 15 minutes or so for the platform to approve it. But if you have your data as a trigger, it can turn on and off when you need it.
Okay, so could I A/B test this? Like at Handcraft, could I be like, you know what? Tomorrow, the 31st of October, we're going to quadruple our budget and see what happens. Like, is that a good test? Is that a good way to test how effective ads are?
I mean, to to me personally as a marketer, I think if you have a hypothesis that you're trying to test and that's one of the variables that you want to test, I would try it. I don't see why you wouldn't. Unless you have a good answer and you're going to make me look like a total idiot right now.
I don't have an answer. I'm asking legit. Like, I'm a performance marketer, but that's also why I asked the question. Like, if I know if I juice my ads, I'll juice my sales. Good marketing grows budgets, right? Why would I not do it all the time?
Yeah. I mean, all the things that we said as to what the constraints might be, but I'm all about testing things. Like if you have a solid hypothesis, you should be testing as many things as you possibly can as quickly as you can. Because if anything, you may get a little tired a little bit faster, but the sprint will help you to accelerate your learnings. And you're not waiting a month or 2 months or whatever it might be to get those findings. Why not accelerate the learnings and apply them much sooner so that you can ramp up whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's online orders or in-store sales, or you're trying to get a better review rating, whatever it might be. Like, do more faster now and then leverage the key findings to go forward. If you fail fast and fail forward, learn from it. Nothing is a failure in terms of a learning. You're just trying to hone in on what actually works best.
Hey man, my current theory is that posting pizza content for 29 days in a row gets you a heater button from TikTok. At least that's what's happening with my personal account. But let's move on from
Really?
that. Justin, we're going to wrap up here in a minute or two. Can you tell everybody what Evocalize does and like how it works, kind of in like 1 or 2 minutes, real quick?
Yeah, super high level. We do local marketing based on local data. So we could take any data at all across an entire system, and we could activate, deactivate, create, manage, modify ads near instantaneously based on that data. So if you have sales that are low, like I mentioned, you want to drive online orders, whatever it might be, we can leverage your data to activate ads across those platforms: Google, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. It's Google Display Network, and we're testing some other platforms right now too, which is pretty exciting.
That's awesome, man. We should run some ads. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? I mean, I know we're live on LinkedIn if you're live with us. Even if they could just click your name, but how else?
Yeah. Check me out on LinkedIn. I connect with everybody. So if you want to connect, let me know. Justin C. Ulrich for those who are listening. Also Evocalize. So at Evocalize on all platforms. That's EVOCALIZE. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn is where we're most active. Try to push out as much content as possible. And then also the Local Marketing Lab podcast on all the podcast channels, as well as LinkedIn. We have weekly episodes there where we try to give results on how to grow your business. I'm sorry, we give insights on how to grow your business at a local level. So
awesome. Justin, love that. What was the last awesome thing you ate?
Oh man, probably a pastry. My wife brought home some cannolis the other day. It was pretty good. And then I had a brisket bowl from a local barbecue place.
Heck yeah, brisket. All right. Well, Justin from Evocalize and the Local Marketing Lab podcast, super excited you joined us today. Thank you so much. Everybody that caught us live or is listening to audio broadcast, thanks for joining us today. Please jam that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you like to listen in. Thanks, Justin.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.